Hello and welcome to Outside Views EU, your channel for in-depth analysis of the European Union policies and initiatives. Today we're focusing on one of the most pressing topics of our time, how the EU tackles renewable energy, carbon neutrality and sustainability. The European Union has long been a global leader in addressing climate change and promoting sustainable development. Its strategies are not just ambitious, they are designed to set an example for the rest of the world. But how does the EU approach such a vast and complex challenge? Let's start with renewable energy, a cornerstone of the EU's climate policies. The EU has set a target of having at least 42.5% of its energy come from renewable sources by 2030, with a stretch goal of 45%. And this includes wind, solar, hydro, and bioenergy, which are essential for reducing dependency on fossil fuels. And to achieve this, the EU provides significant funding and policy support. For example, the Renewable Energy Directive sets binding targets for all member states. And this ensures that each country contributes to the collective goal while also allowing flexibility in how they achieve it. The EU has also invested heavily in cross-border energy projects like the North Sea Wind Power Hub, which connects offshore wind farms across several countries. And these initiatives not only boost renewable energy production, but also strengthen energy security and reduce reliance on imports. And now let's talk about carbon neutrality. The EU aims to become the world's first climate neutral continent by 2050, and this goal is enshrined in the European Climate Law, which legally commits member states to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions. And to reach this milestone, the EU has rolled out the Fit for 55 package, a comprehensive plan to reduce emissions by 55% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. Key measures include the expansion of the EU emissions trade system, or ETS. This cap and trade system puts a price on carbon emissions, encouraging companies to innovate and reduce their carbon footprint. The ETS has been expanded to include sectors like aviation and maritime transport, which were previously excluded. Another critical element is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. This policy ensures that imports from countries with lower environmental standards are subject to a carbon levy. It prevents carbon leakage where companies relocate to avoid strict EU regulations and encourages global partners to adopt greener practices. But carbon neutrality isn't just about reducing emissions, it's also about capturing and storing carbon. The EU is investing in technologies like carbon capture and storage, or CCS, which can trap emissions from industries and power plants before they reach the atmosphere. Additionally, reforestation and soil carbon sequestration are part of the strategy, using nature to absorb CO2. And now let's turn to sustainability, which ties all these efforts together. The EU sustainability goals are rooted in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, and these goals address a wide range of issues, from clean water and affordable energy to sustainable cities and responsible consumption. And one of the EU's flagship initiatives in this area is the European Green Deal. The Green Deal is a roadmap for making the EU's economy sustainable while leaving no one behind. It covers everything from energy efficiency and waste reduction to sustainable agriculture and biodiversity protection. For example, the EU is transforming its farming sector through the Farm to Fork strategy. And this aims to make food systems more sustainable by reducing pesticide use, improving animal welfare, and cutting food waste in half by 2030. At the same time, the Circular Economy Action Plan focuses on designing out waste and keeping materials in use for as long as possible. It promotes recycling, reusability, and sustainable product design, especially in sectors like electronics, textiles, and construction. And funding plays a massive role in these efforts. The EU has allocated at least 30% of its multi-annual budget and the Next Generation EU Recovery Plan to climate-related projects. And this translates to billions of euros for renewable energy, green infrastructure, and sustainable technologies. Moreover, the EU is setting sustainability standards that influence global markets. The Sustainable Finance Taxonomy defines what qualifies as a sustainable investment, ensuring that private capital flows into genuinely green projects. But the EU's approach is of course not without challenges. Balancing environmental goals with economic and social priorities is a constant struggle. For instance, the transition to renewable energy requires significant investments, which can be a burden for smaller or less wealthy member states. The EU addresses this with mechanisms like the Just Transition Fund, which supports regions and workers most affected by the shift away from fossil fuels. And of course, there's also the question of public acceptance. Policies like the carbon tax or restrictions on certain industries can face resistance from those who feel the costs outweigh the benefits. This is where the EU's emphasis on inclusivity becomes crucial. Engaging citizens, businesses, and local governments ensures that everyone has a stake in the transition. And lastly, the EU recognizes that it cannot achieve these goals alone. Climate change is a global issue, requiring international cooperation. Through partnerships and leadership in global climate negotiations, the EU encourages other countries to commit to similar targets. So in conclusion, the EU's approach to renewable energy, carbon neutrality, and sustainability is both ambitious and comprehensive. It combines innovative policies, significant investments, and global cooperation to tackle one of humanity's greatest challenges. But the journey is far from over. As the EU continues to refine its strategies, it remains a beacon for those seeking a greener, more sustainable future. But what are your thoughts on the EU's efforts in this area? Do you think these measures are enough to address the climate crisis, or is there more that needs to be done? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more updates on EU policies and politics. So thank you for watching Outside Views EU again, and I'll see you in the next video. One of those is right here in the end screen.